Sanjeev, my friend, how are you?
I'm great, Rocco, and you?
Good, good, Sanjeev. Sanjeev, I personally want to thank you for agreeing to lead this track at the TOC Innovation Summit this year in Las Vegas. Why did you agree to lead this 90-day turnaround track?
Oh, first is because you asked me, Rocco. You are a great friend. And the second is I have gotten a lot from the TOC body of knowledge, the TOC community, and I always love sharing whatever ideas I have back with the community.
It's very much appreciated. That's what Ellie Goldratt hoped would continue to happen after his passing. So thank you for that. Thank you. So the first question I have for you, does a business necessarily have to be in trouble to benefit from learning how to do a 90-day turnaround?
So great question. So first is it becomes very easy when you are in a crisis, right? If you have only 3 to 4 months of cash on hand, you have no option but to change your way of thinking and go for something radical. And so it becomes extremely easy. Having said that, the business does not have to be in trouble today. So, for example, if you're delivering projects that are a year out, 2 years out, you're beginning to start bleeding money today, right? But you will not see the impact maybe a year, 2 years down the line. But you can see the warning signs today, right? So you're not
Yeah.
in trouble, but you are going to be in trouble if you
Mhm.
don't change your trajectory. So that is another second, another example of a good candidate. A third example is, let's say you are in an industry and you're doing relatively well, right? You are earning industry standard margins, etc. But let's say you really want to dominate your industry and you have a visionary leader at the top and you want to do something dramatic that will maybe quadruple your profits or triple your cash flow, right? So that is another example of a company that might benefit from the radical but simple and common sense things that TOC brings. Now, because it is a radical change in the way we operate, this turnaround cannot be taken incrementally over 2 years, 3 years. It still has to be done within 90 days because we're not going and changing everything. We are just finding leverage points and changing one or two leverage points. And the leader cannot afford to take his or her attention away from business for too long. They need to come in 90 days. We change the paradigm, change we operate, move forward.
I think that's a key clarity point. This isn't about coming in and changing your entire business. It is finding those leveraging points, excuse me, and exploit them significantly. I think
Yeah.
that's very important for people to understand. Okay. So next question logically is, do all businesses need or can benefit from a 90-day turnaround?
Uh, So I would say if you have an operational problem, which means the market is out there, you just cannot serve the market well. Your fundamental core product is there. You just, so it's about just delivery, operations, etc. That is a that is the target in this session, in this track. If you have a marketing problem, uh, I'm not an expert in marketing, and marketing problems take a little bit longer to fix. If you have a product problem and you've got to develop new products, right? Again, it requires knowing your technology, knowing your markets, etc. So I'm not an expert in that. And development of new products and new markets takes time. So the if you have a market out there, you have an operation, and it's about just serving the market better and taking market share away from other people. This is going to be a great experience for you.
That's great clarity, which is still a majority of the world who could benefit. Okay. Just curious, people might say, am I too big for this track? My company? Is my company too small for this track? What do you say to those people?
I think another great question. So let's go back to the leverage points, right? So whether you are big or small, it depends on your ambition and whether you are in a crisis and whether you want to improve or not. The second part is, can it be done in 90 days? And should a smaller company be done in less than 90 days and a larger company take more than 90 days? The answer lies in going back to the what we discussed. We are not trying to change everything in the business. We're trying to find your leverage points and act, taking changes, making changes around those leverage points, right? So whether you are large, small, the amount of time it takes is roughly the same.
Great. Again, great clarity. Thank you for that. Okay. I want to specifically ask you about our healthcare industry.
Okay.
It's a significant combination of it's an economic issue from the providers to the users. It's across the board, across the whole supply chain, including the customer base. So it leads to potential social problems as well. So how can this help people in healthcare?
Great. Great. So I would say two things, right? Let's just first of all focus on just the United States. We are
Okay.
spending 17 to 18% of our GDP on healthcare.
Hmm.
And the costs are not coming down, they are increasing. Even with that much spending, which is more than India's entire GDP, 90% of the people have access to healthcare, but 10% do not.
Hmm.
The 90% that do have access to healthcare, the services, the service, how long it takes to get an appointment, etc., etc., etc. Right?
Hmm.
So, healthcare in the US needs a fundamental change. Now, what people have done is looked at things like, the insurance companies misbehave. Maybe we go and shoot the CEO of an insurance company, right? The pharmaceutical companies are price gouging. Probably they are, right? But one overlooked part is the hospitals. Out of the 17% of the GDP that we spend on healthcare, 40% of those costs are incurred in the hospitals.
Hmm.
And out of those 40% costs, 85% are fixed, which means trying to take your current assets, current capacity, improving flow through that. Imagine what the impact would be if you can improve the flow by 50%. And that is not something impossible. In fact, we have had many people present case studies where the amount of improvement in flow they got was doubling the flow. So
Yeah.
the moment you do that, not only are you making money, right? Not only are you making money, but now you are generating surplus money that you can either give back in terms of reduced premiums or you can use to invest back in the rural healthcare or remote healthcare centers, which a lot of them have been closing down in the last 10 to 15 years. Right? So it's a big, big thing that if we can turn the hospitals in the US healthcare around, increase their flow, I think everyone benefits.
Yeah. I agree. And I like to put an exclamation point on what you said. Over the past couple of years, we've had a number of presentations from doctors and people in charge of operations at hospitals that have used TOC.
Yeah.
I don't know if they would say the 90-day concept, but they have done significantly fast turnarounds and
Yes.
improved significantly access to healthcare. At the same time, the costs go down because you're doing it
Yeah.
better.
And if you look at the presentations, Rocco, what you will find is a lot of time it was taken on the very front end because they were not in a position of being a CEO or chief operating officer of a hospital. They were either some emergency room doctor or maybe at the most head of the emergency department or some departmental head, right?
Hmm.
But the
Yep.
actual changes they made were very simple and the results they got were immediate.
And significant. Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Wonderful. So, Sanjeev, I know you personally have a lot of experience over the years in the MRO industry,
Yeah.
manufacturing, repair, and maintenance, typically large capital items or large capital projects. How could
Yes.
they benefit from this track?
I think first is purely very simple math, right? If you are a capital intensive industry and your assets are down, that means you're not making money. Very simple. So the more the asset uptime, the more money you can make.
Mm-hmm.
Related to that is if you are a capital intensive industry, by definition, your fixed costs are pretty high compared to the variable costs.
Mm-hmm.
So Every extra day you get from your assets, more than half, if not 80 to 90% of that money is flowing to the bottom line. Right? So it's
Right.
purely just that simple. But now let's step back and look at a couple of critical industries. The defense industry in the US, right? The US has the largest naval fleet, largest aircraft fleet in the world. And when those assets are not available, it's not about making more money, it's about not being ready for the next threat,
Mm.
right? And
Yep.
the threats around the world are not coming down, right? Threats around the world are increasing. The sources of threats are increasing. So we need broader and broader footprint to cover at any given time, right? So fleet availability is actually a big issue for national importance. And let's take it further. The US Navy is not just defending our nation, it is defending global trade. Right? Who is fighting all those pirates out there? That's a
Yeah.
big enabler of global trade and prosperity.
Mhm. Okay. Thank you. So the next thing I'd like to ask you about, next industry I'd like to ask you about is the mining industry. I know
Okay.
you personally have some experience, but we also know people that have had significant success in applying this to mining around the world, many friends who have done it, but you also have personal experience. And so how could the mining industry benefit from what they would learn in this 90-day turnaround track?
Okay. So I think there are kind of, again, couple of different things. One is purely a private sector profit motive, right? So if you look at mines around the world, most of them are managed inefficiently. Why do we say that? Because that has been our experience. Whenever you go in, what you find is mines are producing at about 50 to 60% of their overall capacity. Right? So there is, and again, the same thing, your fixed costs are very high,
Yeah.
and the more you can produce from the mine, the more money flows to the bottom line.
Mhm.
And the related part is, if cost accounting and the traditional ways of managing have like one of the most perverse effects in any industry, it is in mining.
Hmm.
Because you are selling based on price per ton, you also tend to manage your operation based on cost per ton. And we all know all that is wrong with the cost per ton mentality. And then the second part is a very cyclical industry. So what happens is the mining industry, when the prices go up, they tend to ramp up production. And paradoxically, even though the fixed costs are high, when the prices go down, they pull back on production. So now you are having a double whammy. You have cut capacity and your prices are down. So your production is down while your costs remain. So you're losing money. So in downturn, you lose money, and in upturn, you make money.
Yeah.
But when you
Because the actual result is cost per ton goes up when you reduce. Yeah.
yes, the actual result is cost per ton goes up. And on top of that, the time it takes to ramp up capacity and ramp down capacity always lags the market. So you think you are responding to the market. First of all, you are responding late. Secondly, you are responding wrong. Right? What if you could just elevate your production levels, increase your production by 40, 50%? In downturns, you will make money. In upturns, you'll make a lot of money. So this is the private, profit motive. The other interesting thing, what I observed from the mine was mining is what I would call an, a social anchor, an anchor industry in the community it lives in.
Sure.
When
Yep.
the mine shuts down, the entire town is affected.
Mhm.
In Mozambique, the mine I was running, 11% of the country's GDP, about 40% of the country's foreign exchange earnings.
Wow.
Right? So it's vastly important for the nations, eh, if not the nations, at least the communities they are in. And I
Yeah.
think we can do much better. We can do a lot better in the mining sector.
Yeah. That's got to be true throughout. I think of where the mining is in the US, and it's very rural. And the communities that they support, those mines support, it's critical. So any improvement there, again, it improves things economically, socially for the whole area.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, Sanjeev, thank you for taking this time, and hopefully we've convinced some more people to come and attend this 90-day track as well as the rest of the conference. Thank you
Yes.
very much.
No, and thank you for thinking of this idea, Rocco. I think it's a great idea. I think it's an opportunity for people to kind of, learn from all the things that all the practitioners have learned. I'm trying to synthesize all of that into something like, guys, it's very simple. It's easy to do. Just if you have a desire to do it, you can get it done.